Hello everybody and welcome. It's time to look back on another campaign with a Trötefélagið here in Iceland. It's July, so Champions League and European campaigns have come to an end. We are obviously still midway through the season, still the main cup to play for. And we've got some players, big signings, big departures, potentially a couple of others in the pipeline. But plenty to catch up on. Yeah, hi everybody, welcome to the episode today. We are once again doing a little season summary, looking back on how we as a nation have gotten on in Europe. Obviously, this European campaign coming is the first season with 6 teams from Iceland going in. And if you want to do us all a massive favour, before we look into it, drop a like down below, leave a comment, and subscribe if you're not already. We're going to mix the order up a little bit this time. We're going to go straight in with our Champions League campaign. And we kick things off away at Lyon. And we got a nice, comfortable 2-0 win away from home. Peter Mützel and Tomasz Basic, I think, getting the goals. Comfortable 2-0 win. They barely had a sniff. And very, very perfect start. That's terrible English, but you get the drift. Next up was a home game against Tromsø of Norway. And, well, 7-1. Speaks for itself. 7 different goal scorers, including an own goal from Elias Hillemar of Tromsø. But they did manage to get one back, but one-way traffic, really. And the goal glut didn't stop there, as you went to Ajax and won 5-1. Again, 5 different goal scorers. Reitan, Barini, Andre, Gerritsen, and Kasai with, again, absolute domination in terms of shots. 32 shots in total, 15 on target to 2 and 1, respectively. XG of 4.14 to 0.48. And believe it or not, Ajax did actually level the tie with their only shot on target all game. And then we didn't look back. 3-1 at halftime. And then a quick Gerritsen goal after the half to kill the tie off before Kasai rounded things off nicely in the 93rd minute. But then a slight hiccup as we welcomed Atletico de Madrid to Iceland. And we lost 2-1. And realistically, we deserved to get more out of the game. Frustratingly, I guess, Borja Alabe actually started on the bench and he only came on when Serge Ungart-Noir got injured. And that was incredibly unlucky because he came on and scored 2 goals to give Atleti the win. Very frustrating, but But then back up and running once again against Dutch opposition with a nice 7-0 win at home to Feyenoord. And then we went to Switzerland and we won 4-0. And at this point, we were once again smashing the goals in. And things were going very, very well. I think it was not last season, the season before, we were the leading goal scorers in the league phase. And we were well on course to do so again. But then things started to go a little bit awry as we slipped to a late equaliser against Villarreal to draw 2-2. It felt like a loss. Really frustrating. Definitely deserved to win. And 91st minute penalty. Stupid decision. It was definitely a penalty when you saw it in the match engine. He just completely pushed him over in the box. Absolute moronic behaviour. I think it was Bakker Hansen who did it. And we were livid. But if you thought that was bad, it was nothing compared to our away tie against Newcastle, where a 94th minute equaliser from Thomas Kirby levelled the game, and it ended up as another 2-2 draw. This time we probably really didn't deserve to get anything out of the game, and Charpentier also got injured, which was very frustrating. In fact, this was the game where literally we made all our subs, stupidly on my part, in the 66th minute. So as you can see, Carlos came on, Battistoni came on, and we ended up basically going down to 10 men from the 66th minute with, I think it was Barini in goal. And both their goals kind of came because we just didn't have a natural goalkeeper. And you can imagine my disgust was further deepened when that meant that we actually finished just outside the top 8 by a point. Knowing full well that if we'd have just managed to get at least one of those wins over the line against Villarreal or Newcastle, we would have finished in the top 8 comfortably. And absolutely disgusted. In fact, if we had have won one of them, we would have finished 4th. That's how fine the margins were. Those 2 stoppage time goals against Villarreal and Newcastle respectively cost us. And our reward for finishing so close was playing Genoa, who beat us 2-0 at at home, like in Genoa. Abysmal performance, very weak, very insipid, and as you can see, we were a little bit light on numbers. And I was fuming with this, absolutely fuming. But once again, we did what we always do, and we turned it round at home, levelled the tie inside 20 minutes. We left it quite late, though, to actually put the tie to bed with Arva Setha, Takeaki Kasai, rounding things off with a nice 5-0 win in the end. But yeah, we certainly like making life difficult for ourselves in the playoffs. And who should we get next but Real Madrid? And at this point, I think it's fair to say our luck really did run out. We were the better team in terms of chance creation, only slightly, but we certainly didn't deserve to lose 3-1. And it is always going to be difficult going to Madrid and trying to get a result. But going in at half-time, 1-0 up, we thought we were maybe in with a sniff. But we were wrong, and unfortunately, we ended up dipping 2-1 down and crashing out at the round of 16 once again. And then next up in the Champions League was Hafnarfjordur, who, as we can see, blew past Bandırmaspor of Turkey, 12-4 on aggregate. And then, in my opinion, played an absolute blinder against Sporting Club de Portugal. So, realistically, we didn't want them in the Champions League, so they're not good enough. So, they did the next best thing. So they played out 2 draws against the Portuguese side, costing us no point disadvantage in the coefficients, equal share of the points between both teams, and then losing on penalties to then go into the Europa League. But they absolutely stank, not winning a game for the first 5 fixtures. 3 draws and 2 losses against some opposition which they really should have been beating. They should have beat Hibs, and they should have definitely been beating Legia Warsaw. Realistically, they're probably on par with someone like Lille as well. So the fact that they didn't get a single win from the first 5 games was very, very concerning. And they did not sneak through with 2 wins from the last 3 games away to Braga, perfect Portuguese. Somehow losing to Waalwijk of Belgium at home, but then beating Sevilla 3-2 at home. And yeah, they managed to sneak through just about. And as they got through to the next round, they would play off against Ferenc in the playoff, Portuguese opposition, and got a lovely 3-0 win at home. And we were thinking, you beauties, you're doing really well. Coming up against Portuguese opposition so far. Sporting, 2 draws, Braga, a win, Ferenc, another win. And then I can only assume that they all had the flu or something, because they lost 6-1 away in Portugal. Lost 6-1. That's awful. It did actually go to extra time. It was 4-1 at full time, which leveled the tie, and then they lost in extra time with 2 goals. But yeah, they absolutely dropped the ball big time. Next up in the Europa League was HK, who came third, so they went straight in at the league phase. And they didn't have the best of starts. Bear in mind, these have got to the semi-final last year. So they lost 2-0 to Bayer Leverkusen, potentially a bit of foreshadowing, which you'll see soon. But then they also managed to get the win against Braga, and then comfortable wins against Ugrit of, I'm pretty sure they're Norwegian, I think, or they're Swedish. And then 1-0 draw away in Sevilla and a 2-1 win at home to Getafe. For a random 2-0 win away at Spezia, but then bringing it back round with a 4-1 win at home to Lyon and a 7-0 demolition at home against AEK Athens. That saw them finish in the top 8, where in the round of 16 they would play Lille and they would win 3-1 away from home, putting them in a really, really good position. An advantage they made the most of, as when they beat them 4-2 at home, they rounded out a nice 7-3 aggregate win. That would see them through to play Union Berlin, and they won the first leg 4-0 once again away from home. And they made no mistake, winning 2-1 at home to go through to once again another Europa League semi-final, where they would play Bayer Leverkusen. And you can imagine my shock where it made a nice change to actually see a little bit of an FMing go our way. With 2 shots, 1 on target, they managed to sneak a 1-0 win away in Leverkusen at the Bayer Arena. But Leverkusen overturned the deficit, winning 2-1 in normal time before getting 2 goals in extra time to dump out HK at the semi-final. That's the 2nd year in a row now where they've reached the semi-final and been knocked out. But they're getting closer. Well, they're not really getting closer, are they, to be fair? But to hit 2 consistent semi-finals, and they were pretty unlucky this time, I think. Leverkusen will probably arguably deserve to win over both ties, but to get quite close, to take the tie to extra time, I think is good going. And next up would be the boys in green, Breither Blik, who last year got to the quarters of the Europa League where they got knocked out by Arsenal. And this year they kicked things off quite emphatic fashion in their qualifying for the Europa League. So they blew past Sparta Rotterdam 8-2. Dropping the points on the draw away from home is a little bit disappointing. But then they did get a 4-1 aggregate win against Leurs Kempenzonen from Belgium. And then, talk about into the league phase of the bang, a 3-1 win at home to Roma, 4-1 win at home to Copenhagen. Then drawing 2-2 with Ashdod of Israel before beating TSC away in Serbia 4-0. But then they did then follow that up with a 4-0 away loss to Nice. But they rounded the Europa League phase off with 3 straight wins, 1-0 away at Young Boys, 4-2 at home to Union Berlin, and 6-0 at home to Bandırmaspor. So now that we've covered all the Europa League boys' league phase campaigns, I can happily show you that Hafnarfjörður snuck in right at the end on 24th. And it did see Braga miss out entirely, which was lovely to see. And then HK and Breitha 4th and 8th. Really good campaign from them to get in there. And Breitha actually only finished 3 points off, the eventual Europa League winners, Bayer Leverkusen. Obviously, we followed through HK and we followed through with Hafnarfjörður. But how did Breitha get on in their round of 16 tie? Honestly, not very well. They lost 1-0 away in Getafe. Very even game, really. They can probably feel a little bit disappointed that they didn't make more of these 12 shots, really. But yeah, them's be the margins, them's be the breaks. And a goal inside 9 minutes from Getafe really made life difficult for themselves, as they were literally relying then on trying to overturn a 2-goal deficit. They got halfway there with Roberto Samudio on loan from us getting the goal in the 59th minute. They've actually not renewed his loan, weirdly enough, because he is looking a very, very good striker. So I think they might struggle a little bit without him. But yeah, they crashed out there at the round of 16, just like Hafnarfjörður did. They got knocked out at the playoff, didn't they, to Ferenc, not the round of 16 to Ferenc. So yeah, so we had semi-final, round of 16 and playoff in the Europa League this year. And last but not least, it was the turn of the Conference League boys, which was Starnen, who actually got relegated this year. They got knocked out 2-1 in their first round, their third qualifying round, but the first time of asking to Rangers. And then, yeah, they went and got relegated. They are now actually managed by Mats Löwe. That's right, everyone. It has done the job, bringing him in, getting him his coaching badges, getting him into the setup, and then he only went and got poached by Starnen to be their manager. He's working on his coaching badges. He's had a so-so start, 45% win rate at the moment, but he's still going. Like I said, he's still working on his coaching badges. He's only got a National A license, but he plays attacking football, 4-2-3-1, and we're hopeful that he can build on that and turn into a decent manager, but not just for us as a division, but just in general. It'll just be lovely to see. But if he can really kick on, we'll be happy with that. So what that meant for us was we finished last season just fractionally behind Portugal for the year, but just about keeping our noses in front of them overall in terms of the coefficient. So we stayed in 6th place. So that means that this season will also be ending up with 6 teams finishing in European spots. It's a little bit confusing in some ways, having our season finishing kind of out of sync with when the Champions League season finishes. So everything kind of happens a year later almost. So when this season, our league campaign finishes last, we'll be having the benefit of last year's season in the Champions League. So the 6 teams from last year will be playing in their respective European competitions this season, even though this season domestically is still going on. But yeah, it took me a little bit at first to work out who was doing what and when. But yeah, hopefully, we're actually only 8 points off Germany. If we can start putting some distance between us and Portugal, we can hopefully start looking at assaulting this top 5. I'm just going to highlight a couple of players who we've had. So Gaston Santucci, I think we might have touched on him a couple of seasons ago when we signed him, maybe from River Plate. So he is potentially going to be the heir to Lenny Charpentier. So if you don't remember, we have promised Charpentier that we're going to potentially win the Champions League. We've got another season to do it, but he's also only got 3 years, I think, left on his deal. So if the right bid comes in, so far there's been 3 bids for him, neither of which actually more than what we paid for him. So we've just been rejecting them. But if the right bid comes in, we may end up selling him now while we can get the value for him and promoting Santucci. So he's actually just been on loan at the second half of the season at Bayer Leverkusen, where he obviously won the Europa League, as we know, but he also won the Bundesliga as well. So good on him. Hopefully bodes well. He did play quite a lot for them as well. I think he started most of their games. So yeah, I'm hopeful that we can develop him nicely and he can turn into our #1 keeper. Now, Magnus Kaspersen is someone we signed 3 years ago, and he's been out on loan at HK for the last 2 seasons, or three seasons, 47, 48, 49, yeah, 3 seasons, where he's done pretty well. He's developed really nicely, and we're actually going to look at bringing him back this season, and he's already started playing a little bit for us as well. So, yeah, we're hopeful that he is going to turn into a decent winger for us, potentially should there's interest in the likes of the Mink, but the Mink's not too fussed about leaving yet. But there's also interest in people like Mutzel, who is sort of being a bit like, I kind of want to go and play in a higher quality league. So it might well be that, you know, we end up selling Mutzel and just letting Kaspersen develop and do his thing. Dennis Reithan is also coming along very, very nicely, also because we signed him quite young. He's got homegrown status now as well, which is lovely to see. Hopeful that he can turn into the striker that it looks like he might be. But we'll just have to see. He does love putting up fantastic numbers. We only have to look at his career stats to see those sort of numbers that he has been putting up if it loads. As you can see, so what he signed there, 12 goals in 17 league appearances, 17 goals in all competitions. That season, 19 in all competitions. Last season, 37 in all competitions. So far this season, 29 in all competitions, 29 in 31 total appearances in all comps is absolutely incredible. Also can't not give you a little Alexandre Andre update. Absolutely love this guy. He has been with us now for, 6 years? Signed him for 19 million from Braga. He's always wanted. He's never that fussed about leaving. He sometimes goes a bit like, I wouldn't mind going to play for Man City. And we just say, listen, lad, you're so influential here. You're a team leader. You're perfect. Did you really want to leave? And he's like, yeah, fair play. Fans love him. We love him. Everyone loves him. He's great. Our youth intakes are still looking pretty poor. We have actually managed to get the facilities improved. Basically did that classic where, hey board, can we improve the youth facilities? No, we're not going to do that. I really think we should improve the youth facilities. No, we want you to sign players ready-made for the first team. But what, the fans want us to start putting in youth players. No, you can protest all you like, it's not going to happen. End of the season. So, hey Tom, how about we, ball come to you, how about we improve the youth facilities? Oh, yes, please. Can you just do that? Yeah, that's great. Brilliant idea, guys. I don't know why I didn't think of that. So we'll see if next year's intake is any better. And now it's time to look at transfers. I realised kind of the reason why I always used to do transfers first before games was because you'd often end up seeing names you might not recognise. And it might be a little bit of like, oh, who's that? Maybe it builds the intrigue. I don't know. You let me know. So we'll touch on the reason why we signed this guy when we come into the outs. But Gaetan Jordan, we signed him for 100 million from Nantes. Now, our scouts found him when he was like 16, 17. He wasn't massively interested in moving at that age. And Nantes, believe it or not, actually wanted more for him then than we paid for him now. They wanted north of 100 million for him then. And he had nowhere near the level of attribute development that he has now, obviously because he was so much younger. But he didn't look like he was potentially going to be that great a player at that age, even though they were asking for that much money. Maybe that was the game's way of saying, this guy's going to be good. But he is actually more naturally a midfielder. Also potentially like more of an inverted wing back on the right hand side, but we're actually training him to play central defense as a libero, trying to make the most of those technical abilities that he has through the midfield. He is not the tallest, I am well aware of that, but we're trying it, and there's a reason why we're trying it, which we'll come on to later. And we also definitely overspent on bringing in Yassine Ben Yahya from Lyon as another goalkeeper. Again, we were gearing up for life after Charpentier, and we brought Ben Yahya in. I don't really know why we decided to pay as much for him as we did. I think we were kind of taking like the same sort of approach we did with defenders the year before, where we kind of just scattering approach, buying some players and hoping that one of them comes good. But we'll see if he does turn out to be any decent for us. Yeah. We'll see. The thing with keepers is they do tend to bloom quite late. So kind of like what Charpentier did, what Chiapara did. So we'll see. Now, I don't usually touch on a lot of loan farm players just because I'd be here forever. But this is one who potentially could actually be a little bit of a decent option for us. And that is Yamusa Angwa. We signed him from ASAC Mimosas for 1.2 million. Cote d'Ivoire. Really quick. Good finishing, good composure. Could definitely do with working on that concentration. But who knows? He's got potentially 3.5, maybe 4.5 star ability. So we'll see. We'll see. But he might be someone to keep an eye on in the future. Then in terms of out, so after Ilya Jakovic and Daniel Schumacher left in the January, I think it was, we ended up finally selling Tobias Ramsvik. He went to Arsenal for 56 million. So for the last few years, we've been fighting selling him. We've been trying to keep hold of him. Basically because of that model citizen, we really sort of wanted to keep hold of him because we thought he's a great person to have around. And at that point, we really felt like we needed the big personalities in the team. But to sell him for 56 million, when I think we signed him for something like 3.4, yeah, you know what? He wanted to go. He was really pushing for it. We didn't feel like we could fight it anymore, and we managed to get a really good deal. Another player who left was Gonzalo Vargas. So he kept asking for game time, which when we had Giovanni Gerritsen, who was our main number 10, Carlos could also play number 10. Vargas was decent. I just don't think he was as good enough to justify starting week in, week out, like getting the playing time that he wanted at the expense of the likes of Gerritsen. But we did manage to basically double our money on him by selling him back to Argentina, to Argentinos Juniors. Yeah, we will see. We've got a sell-on fee, so if he does well, he may well end up coming back over to Europe, and we will hopefully get a slice of that pie. The biggest sale of the window, and the sale which prompted us to splash that money on Gaetan Jordan, was Sultan Al Shamrani. He had left to go to Newcastle. He was someone who had really allowed us to make that shift to the more sort of technical-based 4-2-3-1 that we were playing. He was our libero, which basically helped sort of steer that transition. But yeah, club started bidding this summer, and he was really unsettled. We really struggled to keep him. We made 110 million on him, which I think is a fantastic bit of business. So far, it's cost him 120, and there's like 34 mil in performance fees, which, as you can see, he's already played 32 games. He needs to play another 18 this season, and we'll get that money. So yeah, shame, but we were sort of fighting a losing battle trying to keep him. Then we had Nicola Pellan leave, someone who we kind of liked a little bit. He'd done quite well for us. We'd loaned him out a couple of times to sort of try and preserve his development and his value, and he had done well. But basically, clubs were coming in the summer. He was really getting fed up about sort of, us sort of trying to manage his development because he wasn't quite good enough to displace like a Carlos Francis or Giordano Lisi or a Daniel Schumacher before we sold him. And then Hull City bid 40 million for him, and we were like, you know what, that's fine. Like, basically, we rejected bids from like Bayern Munich, which he wasn't happy about. And he was, we had then the club, like team leaders being, yeah, you should let Nicola leave. No point keeping a player who doesn't want to be here. Blah 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 blah. So it was like, fine. Hull City bid for him, and I hoped that in accepting that bid, it would flush other clubs out to beat that bid. Didn't happen. He ended up going to Hull. But we've got a sell-on fee. I'm sure he'll end up leaving, and we'll get some of that money. And then last but not least, we sold William Martins, who made a small 5 mil profit on selling the Brazilian to West Ham. Didn't like big matches, and yeah, he was solid enough for us. He played well in his time here, mainly as that inverted fullback, but we felt like the time was right to move on, and we got the money for him while we could. Then moving on to this season's business, we have signed Enzo Jimenez in from Boca Juniors for 6.25 mil. He's actually currently potentially going on loan to Aston Villa. I liked his physicals. I liked his pace of 17 and his finishing of 16. Decent composure and decisions. Not the greatest aggression, but hopefully that will develop. At the age of 18, we figured he's someone who could potentially do a job in the loan farm for us, but might be a good little option to bring on in the future for us if needs be, as an option from the bench at that explosive pace. We'll see what happens. 6.25 mil, we felt he was worth the gamble. Speaking of, we signed Mark Cook Gamble on a free from Burnley, English striker. Again, hopeful loan farm player, but also potentially just can be very impactful off the bench. Doesn't like big matches, not good enough in general to be a first team player for us starter-wise by any stretch, but potentially someone we can look to get onto the loan farm, or at worst case scenario, loan him back to England with a nice little percentage, option to buy, and that will go through with a bit of luck, and we'll make a profit on him because we signed him for nothing. Another free signing was the signing of Jonathan Fernandez, the Uruguayan experienced 31-year-old striker from Bayern Munich, comes in, and that is because we were expecting either one of Reitan, Carlos, or maybe even Kasai to leave in the summer. We kind of want to try and sell one of them, probably Kasai, because he's the same sort of age as Fernandez. Try and preserve a little bit of our financial status by letting him go with a view to sort of balancing the books a little bit. Kind of similar to what we were touching on last year with FFP, to try and keep that stable. We didn't fail FFP in the end, but obviously, you know, we just want to make sure that the player value is preserved by avoiding sailing close to that line. And signing Fernandez for free gives us that freedom to know that we can realistically sell any one of them, and we're going to be, you know, comfortably positive in the financial aspect of things. He was quite happy to come in to be a fringe player. We are literally planning on using him as such. And that kind of in itself takes a little bit of pressure because Reitan, Carlos, and Kasai all expect to be like important player minimum. So if we can sell one of them, we know that realistically we'd only have to try and keep two of them happy. And realistically, we're probably going to lose someone like a Gerritsen or someone as well this year. He's making moves about leaving, and that means that Carlos can then comfortably drop into that number 10 where he can be very effective as well. And that means that we can play Reitan and Carlos quite happily and not worry about annoying any of them. But the main signing so far has been the signing of young Francisco from Villarreal. Found him on the next gen list, scouted him, looked really, really good. We're developing him to be one of these either Registas or Volantes in the middle. Good on both feet, balanced personality, so hopefully we can tip that into something a bit more favourable, consistent already. Yeah, hopefully we'll be a really good player. Yeah, we'll just have to see. But we're going to keep blooding him in and hopeful that he will develop nicely. Just gives us a little bit of flexibility should someone like Francis or Lisi want to leave, because we are constantly finding off bids for them and they are constantly getting unsettled. The last one I'm going to really touch on, I suppose, for now is Ferdo Domjanovic. Signed him pretty cheap from Hajduk Split out in Croatia. Young winger. Could potentially be an option to play on that right-hand side behind Andre in the future if needs be. Yeah, not the greatest mentally. He has got potential for 5 stars. I'm not sure if he'll reach it. I wonder if that's just because of that 20 determination. And he has got some good technicals already, but we'll just have to see what happens. We'll be looking to get him a loan move, see how he develops. Yeah, see what happens. And then in the January window, there was a few substantial outs. The first one was Victor Manuel, who went to Barcelona for 45.5 million. He'd been good for us since we signed him from Inter 2 years ago. But yeah, when Barcelona came calling, he was adamant he wanted to go. We had a few players saying, come on, boss, you got to let him leave. And we managed to make a 10 mil profit on him. So wasn't all doom and gloom. Don't get me wrong, as we said last time, he wasn't the best. He was certainly better than Cabbage, but realistically, you know, he wasn't clearly better than someone like a Bakker Hansen, who would also play on that side that he was. And I'd actually forgotten, basically, because yeah, we're doing this in July 2049, and I'm a little bit out of whack with where we're at. I'd actually forgotten that we did actually sell Peter Mutzel. And when I was saying with us bringing Kaspersen back that there was interest in Mutzel, I had lost track of where we were up to, and we had actually already sold him. And he went to West Ham for 173 million. We signed him from Hertha Berlin something like 5 years ago for 10 mil. When did we sign him? 2044 for 11.75. 150 mil, but 173 in performance-related add-ons. And yeah, I think we're going to comfortably get that, because I'm pretty sure it's after 20 games that we get that extra money. So yeah, he's gone there. He had done well for us since he'd come back from his HK loan, but yeah, you know, realistically, he's not clearly better than Kaspersen, so it made sense to get the money for him and just bring Kaspersen through instead. A player who we hadn't really seen much was Dougie Gillespie, so we signed him from St Mirren for quite a small amount of money, I think, 16.5 million, and then we sold him also to West Ham. I don't know where they got all this money from, pretty much on the same day, on deadline day, for 21.5 million. We tried to loan him out, we hadn't managed to. He'd played a handful of times for us in the Champions League, and then yeah, West Ham were like, hey, you know that guy who you're not really playing, we'll give you 25 mil for him. He's now worth 97 mil, which, you know, is always the way of it. But yeah, we were like, you know what, that's fine. Gets him off our books, gets him out of our hair, and off he goes. There were lots of other deals of loan farm players ending up actually being sold for decent profit. And this is probably the biggest one. Was Joseph Dakuli, someone who I'd not shown you because we'd signed him just to be a loan farm player from Feyenoord for 8 million. He went to AZ last year on loan, did pretty well. And then Bayern Munich went here, have 28.5 mil. And I was like, that's fine. He's nothing special. He's never going to be anything special for us. At the age of 20, I really can't see him hitting like 4.5 stars. I think realistically, he's more going to be like 3. So yeah, and it was quite a lot of deals like that. We had quite a few players we'd signed in that sort of mad spree of when we spent 150 to 200 million on players for the loan farm. And yeah, quite a few of them who we haven't been able to get loan deals for. Bigger clubs came in and said, hey, we'll basically double your money on the minimum. Some cases actually getting like 3 to 4 times, as the case of with the Cooley here. Yeah, so that really helped us in terms of sort of balancing things out. And just to further prove that I am a little bit out of sync with where I'm at, we have actually sold Takeaki Kasai, admittedly only just, to be fair. And I say only just. I'm actually a season ahead, so I've already played next season. So all this was done about a week ago. So Takeaki Kasai went to Real Madrid for 94 million. We signed him for 99 million. We literally made a 5 mil loss on him. So that has basically cleared the way for us just to worry about playing Reitan, Carlos, and then we've got Fernandez in the wings if we need that rotation option. So for a player who basically came in for, what, a season? 99 million, sorry, 2 seasons, 99 million, and then we sold him for 77 mil up front, but 94 mil in add-ons, which I will be amazed if we don't get. He did well for us, 17 goals there, 29 goals there in his first season. Yeah, very happy with him, what he was able to do for us. Unfortunately, we weren't really able to maximize his ability into, consistent European performances. Obviously, we picked up a few coefficient points along the way with his help. But yeah, it's time for the young guns to take over, really. So as it is financially at the moment, we're pretty solid. 316 mil in the transfer budget, just over 4 mil in the wages, with 357 in the balance. And yeah, we've got another European campaign. We're going to have, this is the first year we've got 6 teams. So we're hopeful that they will do well. I say that, I already know how they're going to do, but you don't know how they're going to do. You'll have to wait for the next episode. But yeah, I feel like we're getting to a point where I'd be interested to see how far we can take the club in general now. Like, we've got a really good supporter following. We regularly sell out games. We've got a 28,000 seater stadium. I wonder if the board is potentially just going to build a new one soon. We might ask them that once the balance sort of hits quite a steady level. If we can get it up to sort of comfortably back up to the sort of 500 million, I might then say to them, hey guys, you want to build us a new stadium? I know we've only had this one for like, 20 years, but come on, you want to. Yeah, just see, because it'd be nice if they named it after me, as vain as that sounds. But I have done a lot for the club, to be fair. Like, we have won so many trophies. So we've won 29 First Divisions now, 16 FA Cups, essentially, 19 Community Shield, their equivalent, 19 of the little pre-season cups as well. So, yeah. We've done very, very well. The club's estimated value is just under 1.2 billion. And yeah, things are going very, very nicely. So who knows? Let's see if they will help us out and maybe build us a new ground. That would be nice. I would love to see Iceland host like the Euros or something, but I don't know if that ever happens, because obviously it's relying on the fact that in-game there's new stadiums having been built. And I don't know whether that is something that the game factors into with these sorts of things, or whether it just cycles through like your Americas, your Germanys, your Frances, your Brazils, etc., your Englands. But we'll see. It would be lovely to see if we had Iceland host, a major tournament, or even if one of the new grounds hosts like the Champions League. That would be a good starter step, or like a Europa League final or something like that. But yeah, we'll see. You'll see next time how we get on in Europe with the 6 teams. Spoiler alert, it's pretty damn good. And yeah, transfers-wise, I'm not sure really where to go next. I still think I want to work on improving the defence. And we're just going to have to see what happens with the likes of Sharp Hentier. But I've got a feeling that if the right bid comes in, he will be off this summer. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But we'll go from there. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really appreciate you. Take care. Bye for now.